Good. Yeah, you got to make sure everything's good to go.
It's
Oh, I heard a little bit in the background.
is
You're
that right?
getting some hail out there. Yeah, in Boise is what I've heard.
Wow. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to CubeFit Ask the Coach. We have Paula back. Paula, how are you?
I'm doing good, and I have to report that I went into the well bits and checked into HIIT.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I already have it ready for me to do some of those today.
Very
Good.
good.
And I sent you the link, and you said you registered as well, right? For the
Mm-hmm.
for the upcoming webinar. Awesome.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank
lots of good
you.
information. Perfect.
So, if I understand correctly, Wellbeats only runs through today. Is that correct, David?
The
Oh,
Yeah, as far as the free version of Wellbeats goes, yes.
It was only a
Um,
1 month trial that expires today is the last day. Um,
yeah.
but Paula, we continue offering our.
wow.
Are you hearing that?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I hear it. Yeah, I hear it. That's nuts.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But Paula, so we're going to continue offering the classes. They're not Wellbeats classes like the one that you tried, the HIIT class, the HIIT class, but we're still going to continue as a team offering those as well. And I promise you, they will be every bit as good as those classes. So
Thank you.
absolutely.
And there's
And
also right now there's an existing HIIT class for CubeFit offerings. If you didn't know that, there's one, and then we're gonna start off with some more boot camps going forward too. So similarities and all that stuff. So yeah, I think you get a lot out of those, and then adding that resistance training, that'd be great.
yes, agreed. And Paula, I've got to ask. So Tuesday, I believe your background, you were at the beach, and now it looks like you're in a snowy background. Am I seeing
Yes,
that correctly? Where is
yes.
this picture taken?
That is in Toronto
Okay,
on the new year of 2 years ago.
very
Yes.
cool. But you still prefer the beach, right?
Yes, yes, that's home, the
Mm-hmm.
beach.
Very good, very
Switching it
good.
up on us, I like it. Keep us on our toes.
Yes, yes.
Did you have any other questions, Paula, or anything else that we can answer for you?
I actually sent this question for this HIIT sessions that you have, but it's related to um, like if I know we're going to be doing an HIIT session with you guys of CubeFit, so then better I kind of like do some stretching and some warm up before, like that was my question, because the sessions are very small and HIIT like is very demanding, so that was one thing I was wondering.
Yeah, so it's just in a perfect world, we would like everyone to be at least a little bit warmed up or having moved a little bit prior to class. During those classes, we're always going to take the first minute or so and kind of ease in for those who aren't adequately warmed up. And so we'll have a little bit of a mild transition into the actual class itself. Enough to that, I mean, this class that you're going to be taking isn't that uh, that tough that you're going to strain yourself from not being properly warmed up. The warm up is going to be incorporated into that class for you. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
But if at the same time, if you have a couple minutes before class, get up and just start moving your arms around, get some squats in, just get an extra little bit of a flow before that class, and you're going to be that much more prepped and ready to go.
And if we are using true hit intervals too, the intervals are gonna be really tough, because that's the difference between we're running like a circuit style class between like having a hit style class. Because with those hit style classes, it's not just going one to the next to the next to the next. It's going all out for a given amount of time, and then taking a true break in between. So because when you're doing HIIT training, you're hitting a different energy system, like we talked about a little bit last class. You're doing a different energy system. You're getting into that glycolytic energy system, which is just fast, those first like 5-10 seconds, something like that. So, and that's why it's going to help with your fat loss as well. but making sure that you've done like a good little 5-minute warm up, especially if it's an intense 10-minute class, that would be great. And that can be the foam rolling, that can be just a little bit of stretching. Anything that really gets your heart rate up just a little bit will suffice.
Good question. And Paula, was it you on Thursday that was talking about running 800 meters? Was that you, or was
Yeah,
that
that's me. That's me.
So HIIT classes are kind of the similar. If you were to compare it to a track and field event, it's not a long distance. It's not a short little sprint. It's kind of the energy system right here in the middle. So I find you might, or I think that you might like what that class has got to offer for you.
Yeah, that's interesting because I used to do functional training.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of use those intervals, but I didn't know was intervals or such. And I did had some significant weight loss at that time. So that's the why I got curious, because I think this has already worked for me before.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
anything's going to be functional that's related to your specific goal too. And I know Mike and I harp a lot on some of these big movements where you're using lots of muscles at one time. Mike, do you ever do any HIIT training
I
or
do.
anything like that?
I do. So HIIT standing for high intensity interval training, and HIIT training and kettlebell training are very similar. So for instance, the virtual class that I teach for my local only people, it's primarily a HIIT type class, meaning we'll exercise high intensity for about 45 seconds, take a 15-second rest, and we get right back to it. And so you have these intervals of high intensity followed by a brief little rest, back to another high intensity, all of these little intervals. And so I love that style of training. My HIIT classes are all kettlebell based, but then I do a lot of just strong lifting where I'm not lifting high repetition. I'll just do sets of 3, 4, maybe 5. So those are the two varieties of exercise that I like. And then on the far extreme would be the cardio. I don't like cardio.
It's a good way to kind of fit it in, but you're doing more weights.
Sure.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Kind of sharing what I do with the high intensity interval stuff. Me personally, so I do it personally when I'm doing like a fat loss phase or something like that, and then I incorporate it into class sometimes. So I'll kind of tell you the difference between those. If I'm doing it personally, that's going to be something like sprints, something like mountain climbers, med ball slams. I know we've talked about those. Different variations of something where I'm usually going 15 to 30 seconds as I can, and we're talking all out, and then taking a good, if it's 30 seconds, a good like 2-minute rest, and then getting back at it. And when I say rest, it needs to be a rest from cardiovascular work. You can do a little something in between, whether that's like a stretch, or if you want to get your foam rolling in or something like that. It's a good way to kind of sandwich it in there and make it really efficient. And then for class, I'll do a lot of those similar movements, but I'll throw in like single joint exercises that people can be doing, like what we see in CubeFit strength, like some hamstring curls or like some arm work or something. So it's not taxing to your central nervous system, so you're not getting a bunch of fatigue in between these cardio bouts. So that's a good way to do it as well. That way you're getting cardio, you're kind of resting a little bit, but you're also getting some strength training.
Yeah.
So it's a good way to do
and
it.
I think it really is best bang for your buck too. You get your most benefit out of a short amount of time with, little amount of equipment as possible. So it's a very efficient style of working out as well. You get a lot of stuff done quickly. I see Austin's online. He's one of my fellow HIIT class students, so I'm sure Austin could vouch for me that a lot gets accomplished in a short amount of time, right, Austin?
Very true. You'll be wishing you didn't accomplish that much in that short amount of time.
I'm going to give a quick shout out to Austin. So he's been taking my kettlebell class, and The poor guy has not been able to locate a kettlebell, and he's searching. We're searching far and wide, but still nothing available. So that man's using a change bottle. It's a how tall is that, Austin? Maybe what, 2 feet tall?
2 feet. Here, I can grab it and throw it on the mic quick.
Oh, I think you
yeah,
showed us
show it.
that one with that silly looking star on it.
Oh yeah, I think I showed it last week.
There it is. The same amount of
See,
change.
making it work.
He hasn't added any change to it, but it works. And we're just making do with what we have around the house, and he's getting a great workout in with it. So much so that he thanked me last weekend for that.
It's great.
Or something like that.
And then the more money you save, the more progressive overload you're doing week by week, right?
Well, I was planning on get some change this week, so next week I can like really up it.
Yeah.
And see, that's what we were talking about. So he's saving up for a kettlebell, so he's saving his change in the change jar, and so while he's getting stronger that way, changes. It just
awesome. All works out.
It all works out.
Yeah, the inner forearms 2 weekends ago. That was brutal.
It's an interesting shaped object you have to maintain control of with that change bottle. So sure.
It's like those or the clubs or the mace or whatever. You know what I'm talking about? Have you ever done anything with those? I've never played around with them very much.
We have.
Yeah.
We have. I have 2. They're called Indian clubs. They're 10 pounders, and they're only maybe that tall, and they look like a bowling pin. And they're dense, and there's not a lot of stuff you can do with them because 10 pounds when you have an extended lever is very heavy. We have some more that I brought in I don't have them at home. I've got them on campus, but they're maces. So it's just a long bar with a weighted ball on the top, and they work really well. They coincide with kettlebelling pretty well. We would bring them out in the HIIT class every once in a while. There's some very interesting, nothing conventional with this stuff. It's very unconventional training. I think my favorite exercise with that, it's called a grave digger, and it's exactly what you're doing is you're using it as a shovel with the ball end being the shovel, and you're digging holes and you're tossing it over your shoulder, and the rotational strength, it's crazy how much that will benefit you. So yeah, we incorporate those. They're fun to play with.
And it's one of those humbling ways to exercise too. We talk about that too. If we're doing like lateral raises or any like single joint movements, how they can be so humbling with such a small amount of load or weight. And I can tell that's definitely one of them. And then the other thing that I got out of what you just doing anything new, you will feel it in muscles that some people might not know they have or could work out or anything like that. That's why when we start with somebody or we start somebody on an exercise program, we're just doing a little bit at the beginning, and then there's always room to add sets or reps or weight or anything. I can tell you that because the rotational piece of that just reminded me, if I go to like the batting cage or something after not swinging a baseball bat in a long time and I just go all out, I will get sore all down my obliques. And it's just turning like that, just the force and the torque.
And it's not that you're an inactive guy. You're a strong guy.
Not.
You're very active. How does that happen?
Yeah.
But it does.
Yeah.
It's just being used differently. Another good example I like to use on a bench press, and I'm not a big bench press guy. I like overhead stuff more than pushing out in front, but we do like to play around on the bench. And if I have someone who has a strong 225 pound bench press, no problem. Well, I wish I did too, but what we'll do is we'll strip the 180 off, and we'll just string some kettlebells using the elastic bands. And so we'll go from a 225 Paula 200 or a 100 kilo to half of that. But since these kettlebells are suspended with this elastic load, it changes it. 50% will ask Austin, you've done that, correct?
Yeah, I've done that a couple times. Me, Mike, and Jeff have rotated that a couple times, and it is, I can do 160 pretty easily, and I'm pretty happy if I get 110, 120, 100 with those kettlebells strung on there, because it's so much just more control over the shaking.
It's
Well,
fun training though.
that does sound fun. And there's something to be said for variation and just keeping things kind of spicy,
Sure.
you know?
Sure.
But so question for you, because that's interesting. We do a lot of pulling, and we both agree that we should be doing more pulling than pushing. But for folks, I do a lot more, basically the opposite of what you just said. I do a lot more horizontal pressing, whereas you said you do more vertical pressing. What's the purpose for that?
For me, it's more of a postural issue. And
Mm,
what I find for not everybody, I mean, everybody has a little bit of a variation, but people tend to be dominantly strong in the front side of their body. And
for sure.
so when your main objective, I'm backing up, a bench press will continue developing muscle that I feel like a lot of people don't need to continue developing. I would rather see more emphasis or focus put on postural strength, postural health. So
Yeah.
your back, your upper shoulders, all of this stuff. And then when we're consistently even, then we could blow up the bench press and go up accordingly. But
For sure.
what I find is people who they really want to focus on the bench press, they tend to ignore the back stuff a little bit. And
Oh, yeah.
I don't like the imbalance that creates. And
For sure.
so I really overload back for most people until everything kind of catches up and then we grow up. But I love to me, having strong shoulder health is very important, especially as you get into, getting into your 50s, 60s, and 70s, maintaining both the mobility,
Huge.
but the strength to overcome injury. If you're in a compromising position, I don't want to just blow my shoulder out because I wasn't strong. So that's why I like the overhead press stuff. Personally.
That's a great answer. And I know we've talked about that a lot, so I wanted you to explain that a little bit. We both agree, and we've talked about having a 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 ratio of pull to our push work. It's and that's coming from, that vertical pull, the horizontal pull, all the single joint pull aparts and reverse flies and all that great stuff. But yeah, it's interesting to hear that. The thing that I run into with when I try to go overhead with people is just being tight somewhere and not having the range of motion to come up overhead, right? And that can stem from different things. I know we just had a bunch of release techniques that Emily went through, and a lot of people are just bound up in their
Super
lats.
tight, right.
It's crazy because where you tell them to go overhead and they're going forward into like an incline. So a lot of the times I think it's because I have to have people either do like a slight incline or a flat press for them to do it right while we work on that range of motion in the shoulder. That's a big thing. And another thing there too is just if people are pressing, I see this with a lot of guys that are super into training already, and they're doing bench press, they're doing plenty of that, and then they're doing overhead press as well. And they're just kind of overreaching the front of their shoulder, that anterior shoulder, all the time. When you're already hitting that when you're doing bench press. So like you said, too much front, not enough in the back. So making sure those ratios are right.
And the other thing with that, the front side of the shoulder, it's pretty apt to strains. And once you strain something, you're never really you could return from it, but you're never quite the same as you once were. And so I feel like it's too much risk versus reward. So, and that's me taking more of a cautious approach to it.
For sure. Agreed.
But I also see that when I'm working with people on kettlebells, I see if I want them to press up overhead and have arm in same line as shoulder or with your ear, what I find is people like to come out in front. So I get to yell at people a lot, and we work on that. But I see that I correlate it to a lower trap insignificance, where their lower trap has not been used. Lower trap is responsible for keeping you up overhead and keeping you stationary. And when there's a deficit of strength, there is when people tend to fall forward.
Yep.
And so we work on that in kettlebell class as well. A lot of stretching from the lats. That's a big part of it.
Yeah.
And dehydration. I believe dehydration is a very
comes-
big component of
Yeah, that's an
being tight.
overarching theme of like everything that
funny.
we talk about, all the nutrition and
Right.
hydration. As we take big gulps of our, of
That
our
was
water.
subliminal. That was not planned, folks. I promise.
Oh, it's funny because I'm literally texting Amanda right now about that. I think her workout on Monday killed me because I did not drink enough water Monday and Tuesday, and I was exhausted because of it.
You know better, young man. I'm not here to yell at you, Austin, but I'm going to yell at you.
Oh yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's the reason I left that change bottle front ways instead of sideways, or else I'd be hearing how I'm not lifted straight up all the time.
That's awesome.
Nobody's mad, just disappointed.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Austin's one of my favorites. I don't play favorites, but Austin's one of my favorites.
Go with that. You just have a
Mhm.
lot of favorites. Like
I
the
have a
entire-
lot of favorites.
It's like the entire Boise site, and then like me in Fort Collins. It works great.
Austin, do you have any other questions or anything?
I actually did have a quick question for you guys.
What's up?
So Amanda's got me doing speed skaters this week, and I can feel it's the first time I've done speed skaters probably since October. Probably choreographed them with Jeff and Mike in October in HIIT before I left, and I don't think I've done them since till this week. And I can really feel that in the hips,
Mm-hmm.
like a surprising amount, like to a point I never expected to ever feel.
Hmm.
And I've been doing, side to side stretches, split stretches, but is there anything else that can kind of move that, or some, body weight exercises that can strengthen that up? But I don't have a TRX, but TRX lunges was one of the things I was thinking would really help, but I don't
What
really
stretches
have.
are you doing right now? Are you doing anything for your
So,
hips right now?
I've been doing split leg side to side, like bend one knee, go low, bend the other knee, go low, keep both straight and reach down kind of thing.
Hmm.
But nothing too much besides that.
I mean, I think what you're doing is fine. Do you have a lacrosse ball or a racquetball? I'd like to
I do,
see
and I did some of the release stuff Emily
Good.
recommends
Good.
from her release CubeFit class on the side there too.
Good. I think it's going to be like David was talking about earlier. You can get really sore doing something you haven't done in a long time. And I've seen you work out before. I know your strengths. I don't see you as having an insignificant amount of strength there. I think it's just something that, hey, Austin, let's try something new we haven't done in a long time. And that's why you're so sore there. So I don't think we need to do anything specifically to target that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That makes
I
sense?
felt it was more atrophied muscles than a lack of muscle kind of thing. Like just a section I really hadn't used. And see you, Cassidy. And then, yeah, but like it was funny because David brought that up, that like just that repetition on stuff you haven't done in a while is always such a pain. I was like, cool, that's what I'm here for.
I think that's what it is. And so for the example that I used was like a sport specific thing, even though I'm active. And it sounds very similar to what you're talking about. It can be, I see this even with the smallest changes in my personal programming for myself or for clients. I can be doing, let's say like a hack squat, right? And you're doing basically the same motion as a barbell back squat. And I do that for a cycle of training, let's say 5 weeks or whatever. And then I go back to the back squat and do like 1 or 2 sets and you're just absolutely fried.
Crashed, right.
Even though you're doing, even though you're doing the exact same movement pattern, it's just those slight differences. And that's something that we continue to use as we go through different segments of training. But that's really all it is. And you're going to feel that for the first week or so. What if you really need some more flexibility stuff? I know we talk about that world's greatest stretch. I love that stretch. It's just so versatile, where you lean all the way back into that like reverse lunge, and then you kind of open up your T-spine as well. That's a big one. And then also kind of going back into that reverse lunge and staying as upright as possible, not letting your hips kind of cave either way. They won't cave it. They won't go into that anterior tilt, but you might go into that posterior tilt. And just keeping your back straight while going back as far as you can. That one's huge. Another one is going up against the wall and putting your toe up against the wall and then having your shin as close as you possibly can, and then just reaching up while keeping
Abs a
that
couple weeks
rigid
ago
back.
too.
Oh man,
That
that's
one's a
yeah.
good
So
one.
just some ideas. Like I agree with what Mike said. I don't think that there's, anything specifically wrong. It's just something new, and if you need some relief, incorporate
Yeah.
those.
Well, it's
Yeah.
about like I like to loosen it up before I do it again, so I can
For sure.
actually hit it hard instead of just been feeling the previous workout again.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, and just with the stretching, just make sure that you kind of differentiate what stretching for a new like range of motion is, what like flexibility training where you're holding something for 30 seconds to a minute, and then kind of getting loosened up like you said before a workout and a warm up where you're holding something for 10 or 15 and you keep going because you don't want that power output to get any worse. So but yeah, I think you're doing the right stuff and just stay limber, do all the release techniques that Emily's showing you.
Nice. Well, thanks, David. Yeah, limber is not a word that's usually used to describe me, so
Yeah.
But you're a good guy, Austin.
we'll go with that.
But I like that you brought up the speed skater, something that I haven't even thought of in.
Yeah.
I believe it was the first job I had, the first gym I worked at after graduation. That was a long time ago, but they had those smooth surfaces and you would put the booties on for doing those speed skaters. Have you seen those?
I know what you're talking about.
What
Yeah.
happened to those? I haven't seen those forever. And an interval with those, whoo, that's
Yeah.
fun.
I forgot those were a thing. That's why I love this. We like remind each other of
Good
different.
job, Austin.
Yeah.
Are those like the obsolete discs or something?
No, it would fold up. It was like a smooth plastic surface that it would roll out to maybe 10 feet in width or so. And at each end, it was weighted and it was kind of an angled ramp. So you would be able to slide, push your foot up on that and push off to the other side. And the amount of glide you had, I mean, you're in glide for quite a while. So you're just using all that stabilizing stuff, but then you've got that explosive hip movement and pushing off the other way. And 30 on, 30 off of that. I think you just reminded me I need to add something into the HP side in Boise, Austin.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? You can tell him it was my idea since I won't have to suffer under it. So that sounds great.
I'll talk to Emily.
Well, I don't
She's
know
got a
if that's
budget
necessary.
too. But no, that's a good question, and thanks for the reminder on that.
Oh, my pleasure.
You got time for one more question or comment or anything? Got 2 more minutes.
If there's no questions, if there is a question, please let us know. If not, I'm going to share some somewhat exciting news. I'm going to be going up camping this weekend, so we're getting out of the valley for the first time in about 7 weeks, and going to go get some fresh air up in the mountains this weekend. So I'm very fortunate for that. Looking forward to it.
Jealous. Sounds good.
I'm excited.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
We've been having some good weather out here and things are slowly starting to reopen. So we're going to walk down to our local farmers market and
Nice.
get some fresh stuff, get a little bit of social distance, human interaction going on. So,
okay. On your farmer's market list, one thing that you have to get and one thing that you would never buy from a farmer's market. I'll answer first. And
I like all kinds of peppers.
Okay.
Red peppers, like bell peppers, but I also like jalapenos and stuff like that.
Okay.
So that's usually high up on the list for vegetables. Any types of fruits I will take down. So we'll be looking for whatever's fresh out there. Not picky.
So I have to go with broccolini, the baby broccoli.
Yeah.
Love that stuff. We cannot do okra. No okra.
Oh, I love okra.
Nope.
Yeah, I like it fried, but I'll take it anyway.
Can't do okra.
Kind of defeats the purpose. Yeah.
Can't do okra, but all right.
Awesome. Well, that's time, everybody. Thanks so much thanks for your questions and everything. I think we got all the links out to everybody and we answered everything. But Mike, do you have anything else before we
I have
take
nothing
off?
else. Paula, just want to encourage you to try out the rest of our classes. If you need any links, Austin, this goes for you as well. If you need the links, please let us know and we'll get you all of those. I know there's a bunch of email and information out there, so please feel free to let us know if you need that. We're always here to help. You know, even not during these calls, send us a ping, send us an email, and we'll get back to you. bring some questions next week. Look forward to having you on, and we'll see you guys then.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
You.
See you
a
on
great
Tuesday.
Oh, thanks,
Bye-bye.
David. Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
See you tomorrow, Mike.